Dr. Sarah Chen's hands trembled as she held the microscalpel above her patient's exposed brain. 15 years of neurosurgery had taught her to trust these hands implicitly, but something felt wrong. The fluorescent lights of operating room 7 seemed unusually harsh, and the familiar weight of the surgical tool felt foreign in her grip. Beginning temporal lobe incision, she announced to her team, fighting to keep her voice steady. The patient, 32-year-old Thomas Weber, lay unconscious before her, his life literally in her increasingly unsteady hands. The tumor had to come out today. There would be no second chances. The scalpel slipped. Not a small adjustment, not a tremor. The instrument simply fell from her fingers as if they'd forgotten how to hold anything at all. It clattered against Weber's skull before Dr. Rodriguez, her assistant, snatched it from the sterile field. Dr. Chen. Rodriguez's voice carried equal measures of concern and confusion. Sarah stared at her hands in horror. Her fingers moved, but they refused to close properly. I can't grip anything. The admission felt like poison in her mouth. Rodriguez, you need to take over. Now. As she stepped back from the table, an alert sounded from the nurse's station outside. Then another, and another. The cacophony of medical alerts grew until it seemed the entire neurology ward had erupted in chaos. Multiple staff reporting loss of motor function. The intercom crackled. All available personnel to emergency stations. Sarah stripped off her surgical gloves, her mind racing. She needed to understand what was happening, but first, she had to ensure her patient's survival. Rodriguez, can you close? Her colleague nodded, already working to stabilize Weber's condition. But Sarah noticed Rodriguez's hands shaking too, just slightly. Whatever this was, it was spreading. In the hallway, Sarah witnessed scenes that defied her medical training. A nurse struggled with a medication cart, vials slipping through her fingers like they were coated in oil. An orderly pressed his hands against a wall, trying desperately to make a fist. A young doctor sat on the floor, surrounded by scattered papers, repeatedly attempting to pick them up only to have them slip away each time. Sarah's phone buzzed in her pocket. She reached for it, but her fingers wouldn't cooperate. A passing intern helped her access the device. The screen displayed dozens of notifications, not just from the hospital, but from news sources worldwide. Global reports of grip loss incidents mounting. Aviation authorities ground flights after pilots report control issues. Emergency services overwhelmed as grip-related accidents surge. Sporting events canceled worldwide due to unprecedented medical phenomenon. Sarah made her way to the hospital's emergency command center, having to use her forearms to push doors open. The scene inside stopped her cold. Every screen showed similar incidents playing out across the globe. Factory workers unable to hold tools. Parents struggling to grip their children's hands. Car accidents multiplying as drivers lost their ability to grip steering wheels. Dr. Chen called Dr. Williams, the hospital administrator. Please tell me you have some insight into this. Sarah watched the screens, her scientific mind already cataloging symptoms and patterns. The loss of grip strength appeared to be progressive, but not total paralysis. Fine motor control remained, but the ability to grasp and hold seemed specifically targeted. Most concerning was the speed of onset. Cases were doubling every hour. This isn't a virus, she said finally. The progression is too uniform, too synchronized. This is something else entirely. She turned to face the room full of medical professionals, all of them likely wondering if their hands would be next. Whatever this is, it's not random. Something or someone is doing this to us. As if in response to her words, every screen in the command center suddenly went dark. When they flickered back to life seconds later, they displayed a single message in flowing, alien script that somehow transformed into English as they watched. Humanity, your ascension begins now. The VAC-3 ship appeared without warning, tearing through reality like a knife through silk. One moment, Earth's orbital satellites tracked nothing unusual. The next, a vessel larger than Manhattan hung above the planet's atmosphere, its surface rippling like quicksilver in sunlight. Dr. Sarah Chen watched from the hospital's rooftop as the alien ship's presence turned day into twilight. She wasn't supposed to be up here. The hospital had initiated emergency protocols hours ago, but she needed to see it with her own eyes. Her useless hands hung at her sides, a constant reminder of humanity's newfound vulnerability. "Beautiful, isn't it?" a voice asked from behind her. Sarah spun around. Where there had been empty space moments before, a figure now stood. It appeared humanoid but was composed of swirling, iridescent energy that barely held its shape. 2 points of brilliant white light served as eyes. "I am Nexus," the being said, its voice resonating in Sarah's mind rather than her ears, a representative of the Vakthuri ascendancy. Sarah's scientific training warred with her instinct to run. "You did this to us," she said, holding up her hands. "Why?" The being's form rippled with what might have been amusement. "Tell me, Dr. Chen, do you still allow your children to crawl once they learn to walk?" Before Sarah could respond, every electronic device on Earth activated simultaneously. Phones, computers, televisions, all displayed the same image. Nexus, addressing humanity. "People of Earth," the being's voice echoed worldwide in every language simultaneously. "Your species stands at a crossroads. For too long, you have been bound by the limitations of physical form. Your reliance on crude manipulators, your hands, has stunted your true potential." Screens worldwide showed images of human history, stone tools, weapons, machinery. Every advancement you've made has been filtered through these primitive appendages. Today, we offer liberation. In Times Square, people gathered despite their affliction, watching the message play across massive displays. In Beijing, families huddled around televisions. In Mumbai, crowds gathered around phones held up by children who, strangely, seemed less affected by the grip loss. Even now, Nexus continued, some of you begin to sense it. The awakening of dormant abilities. The first steps toward your true form. Sarah thought of the reports she'd seen. Objects moving without touch, children displaying impossible abilities. "You're forcing our evolution," she realized. Nexus turned to her, its energy form brightening. "We are facilitating your inevitable progression. Some of you already understand." The broadcast showed scenes from around the world. A young girl in Tokyo levitating her dropped schoolbooks. A teenager in Brazil moving a crashed car without touching it. An elderly man in Egypt turning on his television with a thought. "But what about those who can't adapt?" Sarah demanded. "What about the people dying because of what you've done?" "Progress requires sacrifice," Nexus stated coldly. "Your species' attachment to physical manipulation has created a world of weapons, of destruction, of walls between minds. We offer unity. Purpose. Ascension. As if to demonstrate their power, every military installation on Earth went dark simultaneously. Nuclear facilities shut down. Weapon systems failed. In the span of 30 seconds, humanity's entire defensive capability crumbled. "We are not conquerors," Nexus broadcast. "We are guides. Those who embrace this change will transcend their physical limitations. Those who resist." The being let the threat hang unspoken. Sarah watched as panic spread across the city below. Yet amidst the chaos, she noticed something the Vakthuri seemed to have missed. Humans weren't just losing their ability to grip. They were adapting. Restaurant workers levitated plates they couldn't hold. Children passed toys through the air. Parents found new ways to embrace their kids. Nexus's form flickered slightly as it observed her observation. For a moment, Sarah thought she detected something in its energy pattern. Not confidence, but concern. "The change has begun," Nexus announced to the world. "Your ascension is inevitable. We will help you transcend your physical forms, whether you wish it or not. This is not an invasion. It is evolution." As the being faded from view, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's response wasn't quite what these aliens had expected. Something in Nexus's final fluctuation suggested that perhaps, just perhaps, The Vakthuri had miscalculated. Maya Patel's little brother was falling, and she couldn't move fast enough. 4 stories up on their apartment's balcony, 6-year-old Arun had climbed onto a chair to watch the alien ship. The chair tipped, the railing was too low, and Maya's useless hands couldn't grab him. Time seemed to slow. Maya screamed, reaching out desperately. And Arun stopped, hovering in midair like a leaf caught in an invisible breeze. "I've got you," Maya whispered, though she wasn't touching him. Somehow, she could feel him, hold him, as if her mind had grown invisible hands. With a thought, she brought him safely back to the balcony. Their mother found them moments later, Maya holding her sobbing brother close with arms that still couldn't grip properly, but it didn't matter anymore. Something fundamental had changed. Across the city, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the viral video of Maya's rescue for the 100th time. The teenager's feet had been captured by dozens of phones, and each viewing revealed new details. The air around Maya had shimmered during the rescue, similar to the energy field surrounding Nexus. "Play it again," Sarah instructed her assistant, an AI interface the hospital had quickly implemented to help handicapped staff. "Focus on the moment of initial contact." The footage showed a brief flash of neural activity in Maya's brain scan, taken minutes after the incident. It was unlike anything Sarah had seen in 15 years of neurosurgery. New pathways forming in real time, synapses firing in impossible patterns. Similar reports were flooding in worldwide. A class of kindergartners in Sweden, unable to hold their pencils, had started drawing in the air, leaving trails of light that formed perfect letters. A paralyzed man in Brazil suddenly found he could move his wheelchair with thoughts alone. A group of trapped miners in South Africa had worked together to telekinetically clear a cave-in. Dr. Chen, her AI assistant, interrupted. "You have a priority message from the World Health Organization." Sarah opened the message to find data from global monitoring stations. The pattern was undeniable. Children were adapting fastest, their neural plasticity allowing for rapid development of these new abilities. Teenagers and young adults followed closely behind. But the older generation struggled, their established neural pathways resisting the change. Her phone buzzed. Maya Patel had arrived for her examination. The girl sat nervously in the research lab, her brother refusing to leave her side. "Am I in trouble?" she asked. Sarah smiled reassuringly. "No, Maya. You might be the key to understanding what's happening to us." She gestured to the advanced neural imaging equipment. "May I?" As the scanner mapped Maya's brain activity, Sarah watched in amazement. The girl's neural architecture was reorganizing itself, forming patterns that mimicked the quantum entanglement theories Sarah had only read about in theoretical physics papers. "Can you lift that pen?" Sarah asked, pointing to a stylus on the desk. Maya nodded. The pen rose smoothly into the air. The scanner exploded with activity, showing not just brain function, but something else, a field of energy extending from Maya's mind, similar to the Vakthuri's own manifestation. "Does it hurt?" Arun asked his sister, eyes wide with wonder. "No," Maya replied, making the pen dance through the air. "It feels natural. Like my mind has fingers now." Sarah's own useless hands trembled with excitement. "Maya, you're not just compensating for the loss of grip, you're transcending it. The Vakthuri thought they were crippling us, but they've accidentally awakened something far more powerful." She turned to her AI assistant. "Connect me to the WHO task force. They need to see this data immediately." As Sarah prepared her report, she noticed Maya teaching her brother to float his toy car. The boy picked it up immediately, faster than Maya had. Each generation seemed to be adapting more quickly than the last. Outside the window, the Vakthuri ship still loomed, a constant reminder of their presence. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that their gift of evolution was about to backfire spectacularly. In the corner of the lab, a potted plant began to wilt. Neither Sarah nor Maya noticed that every living thing near the children practicing their new abilities seemed to fade slightly, as if some essential energy was being drawn away. The Ascendant's compound in Nevada gleamed under the desert sun, its white walls built entirely by telekinetic power. No hands had touched these stones. Inside, hundreds of people lived without physical contact, embracing what they called the next step in human evolution. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the compound's entrance, watching children levitate building blocks into complex structures while their parents observed proudly. The scene would have been idyllic if not for the withered vegetation surrounding the facility. "We call it the price of progress," explained Julia Martinez, the compound's leader. Her physical form seemed to shimmer slightly, reminiscent of the Vacthuri. "Everything has a cost, Dr. Chen, even evolution." Across the globe, similar compounds had sprung up, each reporting extraordinary developments in telekinetic abilities. They called themselves Ascendants, viewing the loss of grip as liberation rather than disability. "And what about those who can't adapt?" Sarah asked, thinking of the growing death toll among the elderly and disabled. "What about the millions struggling to survive?" Julia's expression hardened. "Natural selection isn't always kind, Doctor." Outside the compound, humanity had split into factions. The traditionalists, led by military and government holdouts, worked desperately to maintain some semblance of the old world. They'd developed mechanical assists, crude exoskeletons that restored basic grip function, but these were temporary measures at best. Sarah's phone buzzed with an alert from her global monitoring network. Another hospital had gone dark, its patients and staff vanishing overnight. The Ascendants were recruiting, and not always peacefully. "Your abilities are growing stronger," Sarah observed, watching Julia casually lift a 2-ton sculpture with her mind. "Exponentially," Julia agreed, "especially when we work together. Would you like to see?" Before Sarah could respond, a dozen Ascendants gathered in the courtyard. Their eyes glazed over with an otherworldly light as they joined their mental energies. The air itself seemed to bend around them. A shadow passed overhead, the Vacthuri ship, making its daily orbit. Sarah noticed how the Ascendants tracked its movement, their expressions almost hungry. "They're watching us, you know," Julia said softly. "Our progress exceeds their predictions. We're becoming something new, something beyond their understanding of human potential." In the distance, a military convoy approached the compound. The traditionalists had been raiding Ascendant facilities, claiming they were stealing resources and endangering the population. The withered zones around each compound grew larger every day. Julia raised her hand lazily. The convoy stopped dead, its engines stalling. "They still think in terms of physical force," she sighed. "They don't understand that those limitations no longer apply." Sarah's scientific mind raced, correlating data. The withered vegetation, the growing power of grouped Ascendants, the strange readings from her neural scanners that showed energy patterns similar to the Vacthuri. "You're not just evolving," she realized. "You're consuming." Julia smiled, and for a moment her form flickered, revealing something less human underneath. "Everything requires fuel, Dr. Chen. The Vacthuri taught us how to transcend our physical forms, but we're learning to do it our way, the human way." The military vehicles began to rust before Sarah's eyes, their metal feeding some invisible hunger. The soldiers inside scrambled out, retreating in panic. "Join us," Julia offered. "Your scientific mind would be invaluable. Help us understand what we're becoming." Sarah thought of Maya Patil and the other children in her study. Their abilities were different. Cooperative rather than consumptive, creative rather than destructive. "I think," Sarah said carefully, backing away, "humanity has more than one path forward." As she drove away from the compound, Sarah watched the Vacthuri ship through her windshield. For the first time, she understood why their guides seemed increasingly uncertain. They'd intended to farm humanity's potential, but instead, they'd planted the seeds of their own destruction. Unless, she thought, remembering Maya's gentle power, there was another way. The children were showing them a different path, not the Vacthuri's consumption, Not the Ascendant's hunger, but something uniquely human. Her phone buzzed again. Maya had made a breakthrough, and she needed to share it immediately. The young Vacthuri researcher didn't so much enter Sarah's lab as materialize within it, its energy form dimmer and less stable than Nexus's brilliant display. Sarah recognized the signs of fear in its flickering pattern. She'd been studying their kind long enough now to read their subtle shifts in luminescence. "You must help me," it pulsed, its thought voice barely a whisper. "What your species is becoming, it's not what we intended." Sarah kept her expression neutral, though her heart raced. "And what exactly did you intend, research entity?" "Kirill," it supplied. Was part of the harvesting analysis team." The word harvesting hung in the air between them. Sarah's suspicions, built over weeks of studying the Ascendant's growing power and the withering effect they had on their surroundings, crystallized into certainty. "Show me," she demanded. Kirill projected a series of images into her mind. Sarah saw worlds, dozens of them, each populated by different species. She watched as the Vacthuri arrived, induced evolutionary changes, and then fed. The process was always the same. Physical abilities would be stripped away, psychic powers would emerge, and then the Vacthuri would harvest the developed energy, leaving husks of civilizations behind. "We are shepherds," Kirill explained. "We seed, we cultivate, we harvest. It has been our way for millennia." But humanity's response had broken their carefully designed process. The images shifted to current data, readings from the Ascendants showing power levels far beyond projected parameters, while children like Maya demonstrated abilities that didn't fit any known pattern. "Your species adapted too quickly," Kirill continued. "The Ascendants learned to harvest energy like us, but without our restraint. And the children," the being flickered anxiously. "The children are becoming something else entirely." Sarah accessed her research database, displaying brain scans from both groups. The Ascendant's patterns showed aggressive energy consumption, mirror images of Vacthuri feeding signatures. But Maya's scans revealed something revolutionary. Her powers didn't consume energy, they generated it. "You didn't account for human variation," Sarah realized, "our tendency to find multiple solutions to the same problem." A proximity alert interrupted them. Julia Martinez and a group of Ascendants had entered the hospital. Sarah watched on security feeds as plants withered and electronics failed in their wake. "They're hunting you," Sarah told Kirill. "They've learned to sense your energy." The being's form destabilized further. "We cannot stop them. Their growth rate exceeds our models by factors of thousands. They will consume us as we once consumed others." Sarah thought of Maya, teaching other children to use their abilities cooperatively rather than consumptively. "But that's not the only way we've evolved, is it? You're not here just because you're afraid of the Ascendants." Kirill's pattern shifted to something approximating agreement. "The children, they create energy patterns we've never seen. They don't take. They share, enhance. The network they're building could reshape reality itself." The security feed showed the Ascendants approaching the lab level. Sarah felt their hungry presence even through the walls. "Help me understand," Sarah pressed quickly. "Show me everything. Your complete database, your species history. The true purpose of the harvest." Kirill hesitated only briefly before interfacing with her computer system. Data flooded the screens. The Vacthuri's billion-year history, their gradual transformation from physical beings to energy entities, their desperate need to feed on other species' psychic evolution to maintain their existence. As the lab door began to molecular shift under the Ascendant's power, Sarah found what she was looking for: the fundamental flaw in the Vacthuri's evolutionary design. They had abandoned physical form seeking transcendence, but in doing so, they'd lost something essential: the ability to truly connect. The door dissolved. Julia Martinez stepped through, her form now more energy than matter, flanked by her followers. "Hello, Doctor," Julia smiled. "I see you found one of our wayward shepherds. Don't worry, we've learned to waste nothing during harvest." Sarah stood between them and Kirill, her useless hands clenched at her sides, but her mind racing with possibilities. She knew now why the children were different and what humanity needed to do next. She just had to survive long enough to implement it. Maya felt the skyscraper's death before she saw it. The 50-story structure in Mumbai's financial district groaned as its steel skeleton began to oxidize, its concrete crumbling under the Ascendant's hungry assault. 3,000 people remained trapped inside, their screams echoing through her newly enhanced senses. "We can help them," she told the circle of children gathered with her on the rooftop of a nearby building. 30 of them, none older than 14, all manifesting powers that work differently from the adults. But we have to do it together. The Ascendants had attacked financial centers worldwide, feeding on the concentrated human activity and technological infrastructure. Mumbai was just the latest target. Maya could see them floating around the building's upper floors, their forms barely human now, consuming everything in their path. She reached out with her mind, touching each child's consciousness. Remember what Dr. Chen taught us. We don't take, we share, we connect. The children joined hands, not physically, as none of them could grip anymore, but mentally. Their consciousness merged, not to consume like the Ascendants, but to create something new. The air around them began to shimmer with golden light. Inside her lab halfway across the world, Sarah Chen watched the Mumbai crisis unfold through satellite feeds. The data streaming from Maya's neural transmitter showed something unprecedented, a harmonic convergence of mental energies, building upon each other rather than consuming one another. "Do you understand now?" she asked Kirill, who hovered nearby, still weak from their escape from Julia. "This is what you missed in your evolutionary calculations. Humanity's greatest strength isn't in our individual potential. It's in our connections." The skyscraper groaned again. Maya felt the structure's pain, its desperate fight against entropy. Through the neural network, she shared the sensation with the other children. Their combined consciousness expanded, encompassing the building itself. The Ascendants sensed the interference. Julia Martinez, who had pursued them from America, materialized above the children's circle. "Such power," she breathed. "Why waste it holding up a dying structure? Join us. Take what you want." But Maya had seen the truth in the withered landscapes around Ascendant compounds, in the hollow eyes of their followers. "Taking isn't powered," she said. "This is." The children's network pulsed. Golden energy flowed through the skyscraper's structure, not consuming but reinforcing. The oxidation reversed. Concrete reformed. Steel strengthened. The building didn't just stabilize. It began to glow with the same golden light that surrounded the children. "Impossible," Julia whispered. Around the world, other children felt the connection. In Paris, in Lagos, in Sydney, everywhere, they began to link minds. The network grew exponentially, each new consciousness adding to its strength rather than dividing it. Sarah's instruments exploded with readings. "The children aren't just stopping the Ascendants," she told Kirill. "They're creating a new kind of energy field. Look." The data showed a cascading effect as the children's network expanded. Every mind they touched became capable of joining, of sharing rather than taking. The effect began to spread to adults, even to some of the younger Ascendants whose consumption patterns hadn't fully set. In Mumbai, the rescued building now served as a beacon, its golden light pulsing in harmony with the children's network. Maya felt thousands of minds touching hers, adding their strength not by giving it up, but by sharing it freely. Julia tried to attack, to feed on the energy field, but found herself being transformed instead. The hunger that had driven her since her powers emerged began to fade, replaced by something warmer, more sustainable. "The network is stabilizing quantum fields across the planet," Sarah announced, watching her readings. "They're not just saving that building. They're changing the fundamental way energy works in our reality." Kirill's form brightened with understanding. "You've done what we never could. Instead of transcending physical form, you've learned to bridge the physical and energetic. 2. Share existence. Sarah smiled as the golden light reached her lab, touching her consciousness with its warm invitation to connect. No, she corrected. We're only beginning to learn. But we're learning together. Above Earth, the Vacthuri ship's liquid metal surface began to ripple with golden light. The battle for Earth began not with weapons, but with a child's laugh. As the Vacthuri ship initiated harvest protocols, Maya's giggle rippled through the global neural network, carrying a simple but powerful message. Watch this. Across the planet, millions of linked minds felt her joy, her certainty. The golden light that had started in Mumbai now enveloped much of Earth's surface, visible even from space. Within it, humanity was changing, evolving not into energy beings like the Vacthuri or consumers like the Ascendants, but into something entirely new. They're attacking, Kirill warned, its form fluctuating wildly as massive energy beams lanced down from the ship. But where the harvesting beams struck, they found not prey but mirrors. The neural network didn't fight the energy. It redirected it, refined it, and sent it back transformed. Golden light raced up the beams like lightning traveling backward. In her lab, Sarah watched the battle through both scientific instruments and her newly awakened senses. It's not just reflection, she realized. The network is teaching the energy itself how to connect rather than consume. The Vacthuri ship's surface began to ripple more violently as its own harvest protocols turned against it. Sections of its liquid metal skin started glowing gold, the transformation spreading like dawn across its massive hull. Julia Martinez, her form now a hybrid of ascendant energy and the network's golden light, materialized in the lab. They're desperate, she reported. The ship is preparing to initiate complete consumption. They'll drain the entire planet rather than lose control. Above them, the ship's surface began to bubble and distort. Energy readings went off the scales as it prepared to unleash its full harvesting potential. Maya, Sarah called through the network. It's time for the contingency plan. In Mumbai, Maya nodded to her circle of children. Their consciousness merged completely, forming a focal point for the entire neural network. Every human mind connected to them felt the plan unfold, understood their part in it. The Vacthuri ship fired. But this time, humanity was ready. As the massive harvesting beam descended, the neural network didn't just reflect it. They'd reached through it. Millions of linked minds traced the energy back to its source, following the beam like a road into the heart of the ship itself. Through their shared consciousness, humanity touched the Vacthuri collective mind for the first time. Sarah gasped at the overwhelming sensation of age, of knowledge, of desperate hunger built up over billions of years of existence. They're so alone, Maya whispered through the network. They forgot how to be together. The harvesting beam faltered as the Vacthuri encountered something they'd never experienced. True connection. Not consumption, not absorption, but willing sharing between minds. The golden light of the neural network began to spread through their collective consciousness. Some Vacthuri fought it, trying to maintain their traditional patterns of consumption. But others, led by Kirill, embraced the change. The ship's surface became a swirling battle of gold and silver as the two factions clashed. Help them remember, Maya urged through the network. Humanity responded, sharing not just energy but memories. First hugs, held hands, shared laughter, the simple joy of connection. The ship's harvesting beam transformed, shifting from destructive silver to living gold. The change rippled through the Vacthuri collective like a wave of dawn, awakening ancient memories of what they had been before endless consumption had twisted them. We remember, Nexus's voice echoed through the network, but changed now, harmonizing with the collective rather than dominating it. We remember what it was to be together. The battle ended not with destruction but with transformation. The Vacthuri ship, now glowing entirely gold, settled into a stable orbit as its inhabitants learned to share rather than consume, to connect rather than control. Sarah felt Julia's presence fade as the former ascendant leader joined the network fully, her hunger finally satisfied by connection rather than consumption. "Did we win?" someone asked through the network. Maya's laugh rippled through their shared consciousness again. "No," she responded. "We're just beginning." 1 year after humanity lost its grip, Sarah Chen stood in her lab, watching Maya demonstrate their latest breakthrough to a group of Vacthuri researchers. The teenage girl's hands still couldn't grasp objects physically, but it no longer mattered. Reality itself responded to her thoughts, shaped by the combined power of human connection and Vacthuri energy manipulation. "The key," Maya explained, as golden light danced between her fingers, was understanding that evolution doesn't have to mean leaving things behind. The air shimmered as she constructed a complex molecular structure from pure energy, then solidified it into physical matter. The Vacthuri observers pulsed with excitement. They were relearning the joy of physical interaction after billions of years of pure energy existence. "We thought transcendence meant abandoning the physical," Kirill said. "It's formed now a harmonious blend of silver energy and golden light. We never considered that true evolution might mean bridging both worlds." Sarah smiled, remembering their desperate battles just a year ago. The withered zones around former ascendant compounds were blooming again, transformed by the new understanding of energy and matter that humanity's neural network had discovered. Even Julia Martinez, once consumed by hunger for power, now taught others how to create rather than consume. Through the lab's window, Sarah could see the Vacthuri ship, now a permanent installation in Earth's orbit, its liquid metal surface flowing with patterns of gold and silver. It served as both a research center and a reminder of how close they'd come to destruction. "Dr. Chen," Maya called, pulling her attention back to the demonstration. "Watch this." The girl reached out, not with her physical hands but with the combined power of mind and energy. The air before her split, revealing what looked like a window into another dimension. Through it, Sarah could see other worlds, other species struggling with their own evolution. "We found more of them," Maya explained. "Other civilizations the Vacthuri were planning to harvest. But now we can help them," Kirill finished. "Show them a different path. One that doesn't require sacrifice or consumption." The neural network had expanded far beyond Earth now, reaching out to touch other worlds, other minds. Humanity's unique gift, the ability to connect, to share, to bridge the physical and energetic, was reshaping the galaxy's understanding of evolution itself. Sarah thought of her old surgical tools, gathering dust in a drawer. She had mourned the loss of her hand's precision, never imagining that she would gain something far more precise. The ability to manipulate reality at its most fundamental level, guided by the combined knowledge of human and Vacthuri science. "The children still adapt fastest," she noted, watching Maya close the dimensional window with a thought. "Each new generation understands this integration of physical and energetic more naturally than the last. Because they never saw them as separate in the first place," Maya said simply. "They never had to unlearn the divisions we adults created." Outside, a group of young children played in the hospital garden, their minds linked in the neural network as they created impossible structures of light and matter. None of them had ever known a world where physical grip was the only way to hold on to things. To them, this new reality was simply how the world worked. "We thought we were helping you transcend your limitations," Kirill admitted. "Instead, you showed us that our view of transcendence was itself limited." Sarah reached out with her mind, touching the neural network that now spanned light years. She felt the countless connections, the endless possibilities as humanity and Vacthuri worked together to understand this new frontier of existence. "That's the real evolution," she said softly, "not letting go of our humanity, but sharing it with the universe." Maya nodded, her hands moving through the air as she began constructing another demonstration. Golden light flowed around her, neither fully energy nor fully matter, but something gloriously in between. "So," she grinned, "who's ready to learn what else we can do when we hold on to each other instead of things?" The universe, it seemed, was eager to find out.